Now, the Food and Drugs Authority has approved two more vaccines for use in Ghana. They include Moderna and Pfizer-BioNTech. The authority made the announcement in a press statement, and this definitely comes as good news as the country continues in its frantic search for vaccines to enable it inoculate its nationals. President Akufo-Addo on Sunday said about 20 million people will be vaccinated by close of this year. So far, less than 500,000 people have received 2 doses of the vaccine. Meanwhile, the Ghana Health Service has officially announced that the country is expecting or experiencing a third wave of the pandemic, which is spreading faster than the first 2 waves. We delve more into that, but first, let's get further details on these additional vaccines and how they change the country's vaccination narrative. Let's start with the FDA statement, and that's what you have on your screen. It says the Food and Drugs Authority would want to bring to the attention of the general public that it has approved 2 more COVID-19 vaccines for importation, distribution, and use in Ghana. The 2 new vaccines are Moderna, that is Spikevax, and Pfizer-BioNTech, that's Comirnaty, bringing the total number of approved COVID-19 vaccines for use in Ghana to 5. And they are as follows: Sputnik V, Covishield or AstraZeneca, COVID-19 vaccine ASSIN, Moderna or Spikevax, and Pfizer-BioNTech or Comirnaty. The FDA continues to use the emergency use authorization pathway, which is the accepted procedure for all national regulatory bodies globally in order to ensure timely access to quality and safe medical products, including vaccines during this pandemic. The authority therefore wishes to assure that all the approved COVID-19 vaccines have been subjected to rigorous safety parameters, and therefore the public are to receive these vaccines without any reservations. The FDA remains committed to safeguarding the health and safety of the public as mandated by the Public Health Act 2012 Act 851. Now, for further information regarding all FDA-regulated products and the contact information is right there at the bottom of the statement. It's signed by the Chief Executive Officer of the FDA, Mrs. Delise Darkon. Joining us via Zoom for more on this is the Head of Vaccines and Biological Products at the FDA, Dr. Edwin Nkansa. Dr. Nkansa, we're grateful for your time. So your statement said that you used emergency use authorization to approve these vaccines. What does that mean?
Thank you very much. Yes, and thank you to your listeners and viewers. As stated, my name is Edwin Nkansa. I am with the Food and Drugs Authority. I am the head of vaccines and biological products. We used emergency use authorization to approve these vaccines, which is a published guidelines that guides the FDA towards the approval of such applications that come through. Let's move to the next. Are you hearing me?
Yes, you're on air.
Hello?
We were losing you at a point, but now you're back.
So this... okay, thank you. Yeah, so these are procedures and guidelines that will provide applicants, people who come in with intending to make available these vaccines to the Ghanaian populace. They provide them with a minimum requirement that will provide FDA the guidance as to evaluate it on the basis of the risk and benefit of the product. So these are minimum requirements that will the FDA will based on to grant authorization to such products.
Right. So what does this now mean for vaccine procurement in the country?
Hello?
What does this decision mean for vaccine procurement in the country?
Hello? I think I'm losing you now.
Right, can you hear me? Dr. Nkansa, I'm trying to find out what this means for vaccine procurement in the country. Now that these 2 vaccine strains have been approved by the FDA.
Yes, so, okay, thank you very much. I think these are 2 added vaccines to the list of vaccines we have already approved. The FDA has already granted emergency use authorization to Sputnik V, Covishield from Serum Institute, India, and then also from Janssen's COVID-19 vaccine. So these added to gives us a plethora of vaccines to choose from by the Ministry of Health, Ghana Health Service, so that you have these products available to Ghanaians for vaccination.
Now, would private
in
individuals...
total, we have 5 vaccines authorized for use in the campaign.
Yes. Would private individuals be able to get authorization from you to import these vaccines and maybe sell them or distribute them?
Yeah, so strictly by the FDA applies the emergency use authorization guidelines strictly. So what happens is that before you are granted authorization, it is stated that whatever importation will have to go straight to the Ministry of Health, Ghana Health Service. So all the importations that come are received at the airport by the Ministry of Health, and through the expanded program on immunization, the organization or agency mandated to carry out all the vaccination and monitoring of these products. So no private individual will be able to import these vaccines and then apply them. They will have to go through whatever importation or whatever authorization granted a private individual. There should be an agreement where when the product comes into the country, it goes straight to the stores of the expanded program on immunization, which is the government.
Right. Now, I understand that your job is to approve the vaccines, but now that there are Pfizer vaccines available to us on the market, how sure are we that we have the cold chain technology to hold them? Is that something that the FDA has looked at?
Yes, before the FDA grants these authorization, of course, and before such a product is even released for the purposes of vaccination, and then even accepted into the country, of course, the FDA ensures that the cold chain is maintained. In other words, the logistics to maintain the cold chain should be in place. So what authorization is granted on the basis that we have a solid cold chain logistics in place to sustain and maintain the integrity of these vaccines. So the expanded program of immunization is well stocked and well versed in that, and then they do have the facilities in place to contain them. The FDA would never release vaccines when it notes that the storage has been compromised.
Now, the AstraZeneca, that's the Covishield vaccines, and the Sputnik V vaccines were approved months ago, if my memory serves me well. Can you share with us why there seemed to be a delay in approving the Pfizer and the BioNTech vaccines?
There wasn't a delay. It's possibly the FDA waits for interest. Whenever the FDA will not go around more or less encouraging people to come and apply for authorization. The FDA tends to wait when the request comes for authorization. You receive the documents, you evaluate them for it to conform with our safety, quality, efficacy standards. Before, when it meets those standards, then we grant emergency use authorization. So I believe it's a matter of timing. This is at the moment where the manufacturers or the suppliers think they have enough stock to support Ghana. That is why they have put the request came, and then FDA has granted the request.
So this is a request that came from the manufacturers?
No, I'm saying that we receive whenever similar to Sputnik V, similar to Covishield, similar to the Janssen, it's always an application that comes into the country, that comes to the FDA, and then the FDA works on it and then grants authorization.
Yeah,
so it's the same similar process.
Yeah, you see, Dr. Nkansa, I'm simply asking this question because I want to know where what it means for us getting these vaccines soon enough, so that we know, is it the Ministry of Health which has maybe gotten a lead somewhere and so they are seeking the authorization, or the suppliers themselves want to do business with Ghana and so they applied for the authorization? That's why I'm asking this question, Dr. Nkansa.
Thank you very much. With this particular vaccines, the Moderna and then Pfizer BioNTech, they are the efforts of the Ministry of Health to get these vaccines into the country, and then our guidelines gives us that authorization to allow even all ministries when in an emergency to apply for an emergency use authorization for particular medical products to be made available. So I believe that the ministry to the minister would have gone to identify places with the manufacturer to allow the importation to seek some consignments to come and help with our vaccination program. So this request came through from the Ministry of Health, and then we granted the authorization because the guidelines allows us to do that. It allows the FDA to grant authorization to the ministry and government agencies in the event of a pandemic or in an emergency situation.
Dr. Nkansa, thank you very much for joining us this morning. You're live on News Desk with me, Daniel Darty. Now, the coronavirus third wave, procurement of vaccination, and a looming university lecturer strike formed the backdrop for the mid-year budget review, which will be read later today. An earlier statement from the Finance Ministry said Ken Ofori-Atta, the minister, will today tell Ghanaians if we will be securing COVID-19 vaccines and how we intend raising money domestically to tackle the key issues facing the nation. Mr. Ofori-Atta goes to Parliament in accordance with Section 28 of the Public Financial Management Act 2016, Act 921, which enjoins him to present the review to Parliament not later than the 31st July of each financial year. Let's get a bit more of what to expect from today's budget, and we have been joined in studio by Joy Business Editor George Wiafe. So, George, I heard a report that you put together, giving us a background of what to expect. Give us a summary of that.
So, what we are also picking up is that another thing being called, he's going to go to Parliament at midday to the presentation. He is going to be heavy on programs aimed at dealing with the unemployment in the country and also supporting the youth. Why has that become very critical? Because we understand from government that they are not satisfied with the impact of the CAS program, as in the program that they put in place to support businesses and SMEs in the country in terms of that 600 million Ghana cedis. Yeah. And it appears that they believe that, yes, if we want this economy to stabilize, if we want this economy to recover quickly, it is critical that they deal with unemployment and support businesses. So we'll see the minister announcing some new initiatives. They'll be heavy on this, how to support or deal with unemployment in this country. How can they set up certain funds or a fund to support the youth? Some will go into the informal sector, youth that are in the Galamsey area as well. Right. Those who are in tertiary institutions that are trying to move towards entrepreneurship. Right. Some support will also be done in that area. How the vice chancellors can maybe have some support to identify some of these students and assist them going forward. Even though, don't forget that in November, the minister will again go to Parliament for a full-year budget for 2022. Yeah. So some of the initiatives would be outlined in this mid-year, but the full implementation will take off in November this year, from November going this year. So heavy on these things. Revenue as well. Revenue not doing quite well, so he'll be actually trying to enforce some of the existing strategies and how they can help to improve the situation, because yes, of course, we are spending more than what we've raised, and he's very particular about the expenditure and the deficit. So the only way around it is to improve the revenue collections for this year. So we'll see the minister again outlining some of the measures in trying to improve our revenue situation as a country. And then if you go forward, they also tell us, okay, listen, we prepared the 2021 budget based on more of like the first quarter or the first 3 quarters of the year. So now we have a full picture of how things fared last year. We also have a full picture for the first half of this year. Do you think that the economy is going to grow at X rate? Do you think that inflation, this should be the end of year inflation target? So you want to look at the whole macroeconomic numbers, and having seen all this data, you are in a better position to set a more realistic macroeconomic targets.
George, you were talking about raising revenue, which is basically raising monies. Should we expect any taxes?
No, this is a mid-year review of budget estimates. It is. We are not going to. I mean, as far as we are concerned, there wouldn't be a supplementary budget. So the main focus is that he's coming to Parliament to tell Parliament that I did outline in the previous budget that these are the estimate, these are the revenue target. I think that having now seen or gotten a better picture of the economy, and don't forget that it's also about confidence building. If you go out there and you tell investors, if you tell your development partners that at the end of the year, I want to spend X amount, and you always end up not meeting that target, it raises some credibility issues. Investors who bought into your Eurobond, they are planning with your end-of-year revenue. They are working with your expenditure target. They are working with your inflation because it has an impact on their investment. So if you now have a better picture and you know that, listen, I will not end the year with this inflation target, the right thing to do is quickly come to Parliament, revise those numbers, and let your investors out there, let your development partners get to know that by December, this will be the revenue target. How would that impact on the debt stock?
George, I also want to know about the business community locally. What is the major expectation ahead of this?
We are left with about 4 months or 5 months to the end of the year. I don't think that you should expect any. That's why I was trying to, from what we've picked up from those who have knowledge of this presentation, we will hear some snippets of what we should be expecting in the 2022 budget. So yes, there might be some initiatives outlined, but in terms of it fully taken off, that will be for the 2022 budget. Yes, there will be some initiatives again to see how businesses can be supported, because it appears that the first round of quote stimulus package, in terms of the impact on the business community, it is yet to be felt. And what do you do in times like these? The normal economic models and extrapolations will tell you that you have to spend to stimulate growth. But that expenditure should touch the right spot, the spots that can stimulate growth.
What are those areas which, from your analysis and from what the experts are saying, immediately require attention if we want to get out of this whole post-pandemic?
They are looking at the SMEs, the small businesses as well, because they have a larger chunk of the economy. So can we have some additional support to the small businesses as well? For businesses that are in the agricultural sector, road construction, manufacturing, even if you're not going to give them hard money, can we work out through the Bank of Ghana and the banks in terms of a more flexible credit extension and all the rest? So these are the areas you want to look at, areas that will generate jobs, the SMEs, agriculture, production. Because if there's more production, now don't forget that we are complaining about food shortage. Inflation is not a global thing. US is facing a similar problem. UK is facing a similar problem. Because of the pandemic, most businesses shut down. Now you've pumped in money in trying to stimulate growth. So you have the literal meaning about more money chasing few goods. People who didn't spend during the pandemic are now coming out to spend. Businesses haven't provided enough goods out there for us to buy. So you now have that more of a loose explanation of inflation, where there's a lot of money in the system trying to chase few goods that
people are raising prices.
So people are raising prices. So how do you support industries to produce more to meet this sudden surge in demand because of the fact that, listen, we've had first wave, we've second wave? I believe that now we all have a better approach in managing the pandemic. So yes, we can fully mask and go out. You don't have to stay home and shut your doors and everything. Strict compliance to the COVID protocols and all those things. So we are now in a better position to manage the situation, apart from those who might lose their lives. Sorry for that. So it means that, listen, we have to target our expenditure or funding to those areas. We stimulate production, we support demand. And if more production is out there, people are consuming, they are expanding, then the economy will pick up to those levels that we are all looking forward to. So these are some of the things that we are looking at, and these are some of the things that we are talking about.
George, thank you so much.
You're always welcome, Daniel.
Bringing us those updates. George Biafi, Joy Business editor there, telling us what to expect. Key points, points to measures to tackle unemployment, funds to support young people, measures to raise domestic revenue, and no new taxes, no supplementary budgets. Those are some things that I'm sure businessmen will be very, very happy to hear about. We will now move and talk about some politics, because you see, what has politics got to do with the anti-gay bill? Do you support the anti-gay bill sponsored by some MPs? A, yes I do. B, no I don't. Those are my options for you. Which of the two major political parties, NDC or MPP, do you trust to be more assertive in pushing through the anti-gay bill? And will you vote for them if they do? Those are some of the questions that we are asking you on State of Play today. Evans Mensah leads the team, and I must say it was a very exciting show last week, Evans. Great one. Today, first of all, why have you chosen this hot button topic?
Yeah, I mean, I remember that this is a show that sits entirely on our social media platforms. And if you followed in the last 1 week, the dominant trending issue in Ghana, and in fact, it's even gone global, has been the anti-gay bill. And it's just a right place to start a conversation today about an aspect of this whole thing that hasn't been explored at all. That is the whole concept behind State of Play, is to be as controversial as possible, taking on the taboo subjects and dealing with it head on. I mean, have you ever imagined, Daniel, that there's a lot of politics, partisan politics at play in this whole anti-gay agenda, which has found expression in the bill? We have the gang. We've sat down and teased it out. There are some people who are making their political careers on the back of this, and we have numbers to back this point. We're going to be making some very interesting revelations on it, and telling you which of the parties stand to lose the most out of this, and call out a few names. You actually want to join this, because this is going to be one of those very exciting but very controversial angles to this whole conversation.
I'm telling you, that was actually going to be my next question, which would be, who are those who are making their political careers from this, and what are the numbers? You know, news desk viewers also want a sneak peek.
Now, but the thing is, there are those who are making their political careers on this, and there are those whose actions and inactions are either on making their own political careers, or in fact, in one of the cases, they are by proxy seriously damaging the political prospects of their group. I mean, it is quite an interesting analysis. You should join us at 2:30 today to learn it. And by the way, we've done two very controversial polls on this subject that will be outdooring on the show, and that in essence will form the basis of this. I will tell you what research, more scientific research, says about this too. I mean, I'm looking forward to this at 2:30 today on all our social media platforms. Unfortunately, if you're watching us on JoyNews and you're hoping it's going to be on JoyNews, as we say on Twitter Play, you lie bad. Just get onto our YouTube channels, get onto Facebook, our Facebook channels, get onto our Twitter pages, our Instagram live pages, both Joy FM and JoyNews, and you can join us there and participate and share your thoughts with us on this matter. And
Evans, I can see the glee in your face and in your voice.
I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah,
it's one of those things.
I am looking forward to this. But look, again about the subject, anti-LGBTQI bill, politics, the partisan politics of Ghana. I would have thought, and a lot of people would have thought, that this would be one of the issues where you would find some convergence on. How did this become polarized on a partisan level? Very quickly before we wrap up.
I mean, so here we are. If I ask you, Daniel, name one, name one politician who has been the champion of this anti-gay agenda. Who will you say? Who will you say?
Sam George.
Which party does he belong to?
NDC.
Okay. So do you see the problem where in people's minds, they can actually say, it's the NDC, the opposition party. And remember, this is the private member's bill, and he has support from other people. But in terms of the man who is putting his reputation and he's fighting with international community players, right? Aggressively on Twitter, the global, and I've seen BBC stories about him, who is risking it all. It's Sam George. And you see there's a certain ripple benefit that his party will have. And the thing is that this is an opposition party that is reaping some possible benefits out of this.
Okay.
But Daniel, you're tempting me, and it begs the question. It begs the question: what is the stated official government? Because in essence, even if the bill passed, the president will have to assent to it. And normally, it's the governments that drive this, right?
Yeah.
So what is the obvious official stated government party position on this bill?
I'll make a confession.
The lack of this has implications.
Yeah.
Or the availability of it also has implications.
Yeah.
I don't want to say what it is now, but there are a lot of meanings you can read into the way what is happening, the silence or the lack thereof. You have to join us.
Evans, I'll make a confession. I have asked myself some of the questions that you are asking on the show today. And so I am going to be one of your viewers, asking as many questions as possible. And this excites me a lot because the nature of State of Play is that it's audience-driven. Explain that to us in a heartbeat for my audience. What do you mean by it's an audience-driven show?
Audience-driven because it is all about engagement with our audience directly, in real time, and live. So what is going to happen is we just talk for 10 minutes. I mean, and again, it's a fair show where the journalists and the host talk less and the audiences do more. So we do only 10 minutes talk. And then the 20 minutes that is left is all about engaging with our audience. All your questions, all your banter, all your comments, and all your abuse. I mean, we got a few of those in the first show. So yeah, I mean, listen, it's welcome. Right. I mean, as we see on State of Play, you get the response you deserve.
All right, Evans, thank you very much for joining us today. I can't wait to see that episode.
Yeah, thank you.
Away from State of Play, but still in politics, the Cape Coast High Court has annulled the results of the 2020 parliamentary elections in the ASSIN North constituency. The court presided over by Justice Kwesi Boakye ordered for fresh elections to be conducted in that constituency. The state of the petitioner, or the case of the petitioner, is that the MP JoyNews Kwesi, at the time of filing to contest the 2020 parliamentary elections, had not renounced his Canadian citizenship and thus held dual nationality. There's more in this report.
In the 55-page judgment in front of a packed court, the judge, Justice Kwesi Boakye, said the MP, JoyNews Kwesi, violated constitutional provisions and other statutory provisions that guide Ghana's elections. Consequently, he cancelled the 2020 parliamentary elections that were conducted in the ASSIN North constituency and ordered for a fresh election to be conducted. By the court's order, Mr. JoyNews Kwesi should not hold himself out as the MP for the ASSIN North. Before the orders of the court, the judge took time to deal with the 4 issues that were set down for trial. On the issue of the capacity of the petitioner to maintain an action against the ASSIN North MP, the judge said the petitioner had the capacity and the petition was competent as well. The judge accordingly overruled the MP's challenge of the petitioner's capacity. The court explained that its jurisdiction could be invoked in an election petition when the EC conducts a parliamentary election and declares the result of the contest. Thus, he argued the court's jurisdiction was properly invoked. On the second issue on whether or not the EC erred in the discharge of its duties and allowed Mr. JoyNews Kwesi to file his nominations, the judge also indicated the independence of the EC in the conduct of elections in Ghana was not in doubt, and the court won't interfere in the operations of the EC unless an illegality and an unconstitutionality are being perpetrated by the EC. the third issue on when Article 94(2)A kicks in, the judge said based on the certificate the MP submitted in his affidavit in response to the petition, he only ceased to be a Canadian citizen on November 26, 2020, and not any period before or at the time of filing to contest the elections. The court indicated that the evidence on the face of the certificate destroys the case of the ASSIN North MP. According to the judge, it would be a bad precedent and a cancerous tumor in Ghana's legal jurisprudence should the court allow that to happen. On the final issue on whether or not the election of the ASSIN North MP is null and void, the judge said the MP violated the constitutional provisions and other statutory provisions that guide Ghana's elections, and so the elections were null and void. A member of the NDC's legal team, Alex Sebefia, says it was a travesty of justice and the NDC would deal with the case to its logical conclusion. He adds, should there be a by-election, the NDC would still win the seat.
It says you must be a citizen of Ghana. If you are not a citizen of Ghana, you cannot hold certain positions. You cannot hold this position, president, you cannot be a chief of defense staff, etc., etc. And in 94(2), it says you cannot be an MP if you owe allegiance. There's a big difference between allegiance and citizenship.
Now, Richard Kojo has been gathering some reactions from the constituency and joins us with more. Kojo, what have you been picking up since the ruling?
Also, it looks as if that people are now digesting the ruling or the judgment of the Cape Coast High Court. In fact, some of them are angry. They feel that Mr. George Achikwesin is loved in the constituency and has that intent to do very well for the constituency. And so they didn't see the reason why that challenge even came in the first place. And then the elections had to be cancelled in the second place. But there are others too who feel that, well, if you are contesting an election, you need to gather all the materials, all the requirements necessary to enable you contest that particular election. And so they hold the view that the High Court was right and the person that sent the matter was right, even though that person who petitioned the High Court comes from ASSIN Breku, the constituency capital. In fact, initially, they had issues with him. They didn't understand why he should do that to them from that constituency, or why he should deny the people of ASSIN Breku the right to, someone who comes from that place. And so they are divided, but each of them would have a point. They raise the point and defend the points that they have. And so they are waiting for the decision whether there will be an appeal by the NDC bench or they will allow the by-election to go on. And so this constituency is predominantly a farming constituency, and it also has a lot of settler communities that are also sprawled around that particular. And so if you look at the history of the elections that have taken place in that particular constituency, you had Kennedy Japan, who held the seat from 2000, 2004, and 2008. In 2012, the constituency was split into two, and so that is why you had Kennedy Japan going for the ASSIN Central seat, and then the north of it became the ASSIN North, where one Ambry of the NDC won the 2012 elections. And then in 2016, Abna Dua Mensah of the NPP won. And then in 2020, Mr. George Achikwesin also won. And so this has been the history of this particular constituency.
Okay. Now, Richard, you were telling me that the reactions are mixed from the people. Would you say that the division and the reaction is along partisan lines? Would you say that it's just simply NDC sympathizers and supporters saying that this challenge should not have been brought, and MPP people saying that, look, if you're going to be an MP, be prepared, or you're getting some neutrals? Right, Richard, can you hear me?
Well, so largely it's along partisan lines, but along the line you find some people who belong to the NPP sympathizing that, but they come from that community. They feel that Breku had been given an MP who comes from that particular area, and so that challenge shouldn't have taken place in the same period. But because they are party people, they see also some reasons in the decision their party took, or the petitioner also took, likely because this is a civil case between a petitioner who the MPP do not want to say that it comes from their fold, but this is purely someone who petitioned the court, but it inures to their benefit, and so they seem to reason along the same line with the petitioner, and so that is how the thing has been. But you remember that some time ago, the regional minister visited that constituency, and the chiefs from that particular traditional area indicated to the regional minister that they want a representation, and they want the
Right, Richard Kojonyako there from the Central Region, giving us a Zoom report there. Unfortunately, we seem to have lost him on that, so we'll move to other stories. Let's now hear from the National Communications Officer of the NDC, Sami Jemfi, speaking on this subject.
Rawlings didn't need to show any certificate of renunciation before he can be said, or he could have been said to have renounced his allegiance. He said, this President Rawlings is a member of the Ghana Armed Forces. He has sworn an oath of allegiance to Ghana, both as a soldier and also as president of this country at different, times. And apart from that, the nomination form he filed to contest as president on the ticket of the NDC in 1992 had a statutory declaration in which he had sworn before a commissioner of oath and declared solemnly that he didn't owe allegiance to any country other than Ghana. So by virtue of the fact that Rawlings, as a soldier and as a former president, has sworn allegiance to Ghana, by virtue of the fact that President Rawlings had submitted a statutory declaration to the EC at the time, swearing that he owes allegiance to no other country apart from Ghana. Justice Esifi in that case, Bilson versus Rawlings, said, whether he has a certificate of renunciation or not is inconsequential. Okay. That alone constitutes evidence of constructive renunciation. Why is it that now we are being told by our courts that until a foreign country issues you a certificate of renunciation of your citizenship of that country, you still owe allegiance to them? When you are a citizen of Ghana, you have sworn allegiance to Ghana, you have submitted a statutory declaration in which you have sworn that you owe allegiance to only Ghana. We are saying that until that foreign country accepts your application of renunciation, you still owe allegiance to them. What kind of interpretation is that?
Professor Kweku Asare,
what kind of interpretation in that?
What exactly can be done?
On JoyNews Desk, let's stay a bit further on this subject because Professor Kweku Asare also spoke on the show.
If you owe allegiance to a country other than Ghana, you cannot be an entity. But it is also about so many other things, because I have a list here of things that you cannot do if you cannot be an MP. You cannot, for instance, be a minister of state. You cannot be a deputy minister of state. You cannot be a cabinet member. You cannot be a speaker of parliament. You cannot be a member of the electoral commission. You cannot be a member of the Public Service Commission. You cannot be a member of the National Commission for Civic Education. You cannot be a member of Lands Commission. You cannot be a founding member of a political party. You cannot be an executive member of a political party.
That's a tall list
of a political party.
For the sake of time.
So the question then is, what really is citizenship? What does it mean to say you are a citizen of Ghana? You are a natural born citizen of Ghana, and you cannot be anything. Obviously, the scope of restrictions alone should alert us that we are misinterpreting Article 94(2)(a). My understanding of Article 94(2)(a) is that it applies only to naturalized Ghanaians or registered Ghanaians. This is the common sense approach that the Nigeria courts have used. The Nigeria courts insist that a natural-born Nigerian cannot be excluded from the political space.
So clearly, Article 94(2) should be looked at again.
Be repealed, and there's a bill to that effect that has been gazetted that we are pushing through. I was in Accra about, I just arrived.
And that's Professor Kweku Asare there. You're live on JoyNews Desk with me, Daniel Dazi. Up next is Business with Daryl Kwao.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Business. My name is Darryl Kwao. The ongoing demutualization of the Ghana Stock Exchange has entered its second phase with the appointment of transactional and legal advisors. At the company's annual general meeting in Accra, Chairman of the Council, ASSIN noted that the two firms have already submitted a report for onward consideration by council members. According to him, all the strategies and plans of the exchange towards demutualization is on course. Here's more in this report.
The Ghana Stock Exchange, despite an impressive performance over the years, is expecting more robust activity when the planned demutualization is fully completed. According to the Council Chairman, ASSIN, Benchi Enchil, Lecha and Ankoma and SEM Group have begun work and have already submitted draft transaction documents such as the transaction checklist, financial due diligence, as well as the valuation and share distribution plan as they await consideration. He believes this will enhance the country's capacity as having the leading stock market in Africa.
They've done everything, but unfortunately the COVID hampered us. You know, we even had the London Stock Exchange with us, who are going to help us with this demutualization, because we think it is very, very important so that people effectively own the stock exchange rather than it being a national asset. We want to break away from that and have freedom within the stock exchange, And you will also notice that from the revisions that we're doing to our rules, our listing rules and so on, we are trying to be very competitive and trying to ensure that the stock exchange moves in tandem with modern trends.
Commenting on the performance of the exchange for the first half of the year, Managing Director of the GSE, Ekwafezi, described the performance as one of the best since the beginning of stock trading in Ghana. He therefore hopes for a more aggressive growth performance before the end of the year.
I expect to see the index still remaining positive. As to whether to go up or come down, I cannot predict, but I expect it to still remain positive. The bond market will still do well. Already we've done the whole, the value traded or the volume traded is about the same as the whole of last year. So we're on the right track. The bond market will still continue to do well. Equity market will continue to do well this year.
The annual general meeting was also used to honor some key personalities who worked tirelessly towards the transformation of the bourse.
All right, in other news, Design and Technology Institute has organized a competition to support entrepreneurs in the technical and vocational industry by providing them seed funding to inject into their businesses. MasterCard Foundation, the major partner for the competition, will be supporting with $22,000. Winners will go home with $7,000, and the second and third positions would, however, take away $5,000 and $4,000 respectively. More in this report.
The issue of unemployment among graduates in Ghana is on the rise as thousands of students graduate each year. In view of this, the Design and Technology Institute has organized a competition to support the graduating students to start their own businesses. According to the Institute's Chief Executive, Constance Swanika, government and private institutions cannot employ all graduates, hence the decision to support her students with $3,000 and equipment to start their own businesses.
Everything that we do here must lead into jobs. One of our core concerns is when you teach young people or you give them skills, it has to lead to an outcome. And so with a core precision welding and fabrication program that we're doing, through some of the creative courses that we do, they enter a competition where young people are given seed capital, because government cannot create all the jobs. Employers also cannot employ all the young people that come out every year. Our partners, the MasterCard Foundation, allows us to use up to about 30,000 USD, which, as we said, goes into seed funding for some of the winners. But the school also then provides them with some of the raw materials that they need to design their prototypes as well.
Technical lead at Tech Shelter, Paul Kwabena Esiedu, says the outcome of the competition will indicate that students from the Design and Technology Institute are ready for the job market.
DTI is giving them hands-on training, right? And they are trying to solve real-life problems beyond the walls of the school. If they continue with that which they have learned and the competition the skills they have learned from this competition, they are more likely to be able to solve even more problems beyond what they learned here with the skill sets they have learned. So I think they are more ready. There's more to learn, and DTI is supporting them to partner with industry players. So going out from here means that they are ready to apply what they have learned to solve problems within our economy. So I think they are somewhat ready.
All right, and that's it for business. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com. We are following the media review presentation by the finance minister. As we're hearing, government is unlikely to introduce new taxes. The focus of the budget will be on growth. There's more coming up after this break. Don't go anywhere.
You're live on JoyNews desk, and let me just say congratulations to Abeku Jackson, who just won in one of the heats in the swimming contest in the Tokyo Olympics. Mapito will bring you more of that on social media on JoyNews Interactive. Now, on Joy Clean Ghana campaign today, AMA officials are demolishing pan latrines at Old Fadama. The pan latrines were outlawed as far back as 2010. But in 2021, some of them are still operating in the city. Let's take you live to Old Fadama, where my colleague Manuel Kranting is standing by to bring us updates. So, Manuel, what's happening now?
So, Daniel, what you can see in your shot are city guards with the Accra Metropolitan Assembly who are now tearing down, indeed, the very first pan latrine that was seen on the stretch here at Old Fadama. This is just some, 10 meters, if you like, away from the lagoon, as you can now see in your shot. And this latrine is called God is Love, except that there's nothing about godly love on this latrine. And as I get a bit closer to it, you get a sense of the pans that are beneath the wooden structure. What happens here is that patrons of the public toilet, access here and then ease themselves into the pan. Now, when the pan is filled up, a human being comes to carry the pan and then goes to discharge it off into the lagoon, we are told. This particular practice has been outlawed by the AMA sanitation laws since 2010. I'm told by the AMA officials that all attempts to get the operators of this particular pan latrine to stop operating have not yielded results. And so today, the warnings have ended. What we are seeing is ASSIN, and ASSIN bringing down the pan latrine to put a strong signal to the operators and indeed all other corporates around here to put an end to this particular practice. I'll just get a bit closer to Madam Florence Kuti, who is head of Public Health Division of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, to speak to her about today's exercise. Madam, now that we are pulling this one down, what are the options for those who live here?
They have public toilets that are up to standard within this place. This enclave alone has over 150 public toilets within this area, excluding these pan latrines. So these pan latrines are just things that somebody who doesn't want to pay higher will use the pan latrine. So they have alternatives with aside these pan latrines.
Did you meet anybody when you arrived here?
In fact, when we arrived here, somebody has already come to inform, an informant came to inform them that we were on our way coming. So they disappeared and left the place, as we said the other time. These are some of the things environmental officers face in the field. You go to the field, you have the premises, you are working to go to another premises. Before you leave that premises, somebody will call to inform the others that the officers are coming, and they will all abscond and leave the premises empty. You go to meeting. You can see up till now, nobody has even come out to say, to claim ownership of this toilet. Where is the owner? Somebody was there collecting money. The fan is still on. All the tissues are still there. Where is the owner?
Right.
Because they know it's a wrong thing.
because they know it's a wrong thing. And so, Daniel, that's the picture that we're getting from here at Old Fadama. And as I explained to you, this is God is Love public toilet. This is just the first one that is being torn down today. More are going to be torn down as we progress in this morning's exercise. Daniel, if you can hear me, back to you.
Thank you very much, Manuel Kranting, for bringing us those updates from the God is Love pan latrine at Old Fadama. The Joy Clean Ghana campaign team is on the road. And this is where we wrap up Joy News Desk. My name is Daniel Daze. I'll return at midday when we bring you our live coverage of the mid-year budget review, which will be presented by Ken Oforiatta in Parliament. But up next is Mapito Sabidi with Joy News Interactive.